Hello, BookTube. We're back to this library tour. We're on the bottom shelf of this middle bookcase. So I'm down on the floor in puppy territory, and we're going to start. We don't have any transverse books. We're just going to get through this shelf, and then we'll be done with this bookcase, and we'll just move on. And the first book we have here will be familiar to all of you, not only watching this channel, but anywhere on YouTube, because it is the subject of my second only mandatory book read, and that is Charles Darwin's Origin of Species. This is the Annotated Origin from the Belknap Press of Harvard University Press, edited by James Costa. This is one of their annotated editions, so you get the text, but you also get lots and lots of explanatory stuff full of pictures. Just a fantastic volume of the Origin of Species, just fantastic. Then we have a great old staple of nautical writing. This is from almost, what, 70 years ago? 1957. This is from 1957. This is Peter Freuchen's The Book of Seven Seas. And there's Mark Richardson on the cover. This is just a big illustrated compendium of nonfiction on sea lore, stories from the sea, all that sort of stuff. One of the what did we see? Yeah, we saw this also on this. This is another. There's just a few. Well, there are a lot more than a few big anthologies of sea-related literature, but there are only a relatively small handful of them that are must-owns, and this is one of them. So, so here it is. Then we have a big volume of Mark Twain. This is from Courage Books. I love these editions. I love their Shakespeare. I love their Jack London. They do an Edgar Allan Poe. The title, of course, is wrong. The unabridged Mark Twain is much, much bigger than this. And the way you know that is because there's a second volume in this series. But this has everything. This volume has just everything that you... I mean, it has opening remarks by Kurt Vonnegut that are all about Kurt Vonnegut in a book about Mark F.N. Twain. But it has Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer and the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court and tons of short stories. This is a great Mark Twain volume, and I love the way these Courage books, they're in the paperback, they're running press. I love the way they feel in the hand. Great big heavy bricks of things. Okay, this next one is Raymond Brown's An Introduction to the New Testament. Big thick thing. This is, who is this? Yale, and Yale a few years ago came out with an abridgment of this, figuring, you know, Raymond Brown, he is absolutely great to read on the New Testament and in any form, and I think they came out with an abridgment as a sort of more accessible version. And when I got the abridgment in the mail, I realized that I didn't have this anymore and begged and pleaded to get it, because this is what you want. This is, if you're curious about learning more about the New Testament and you know from a distance that the scholarship and the history and the whatnot is so complex that it's bewildering and intimidating, then get this book and just keep it at your elbow, because it's fantastic. Scholarly, but also clear as a bell. Okay, this next one is Sheila Fisher's translation of selections from the Canterbury Tales. How is that for a cover, huh? This is from, I think I might still have a pub sheet in here. This is from before we knew each other. Yeah, 2011. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And, you know, it's selections from, because the Canterbury Tales is not finished. Really, any version that doesn't have just 20-line fragments is going to be selections from. But I thought it was fantastic, and I don't know that I've ever seen it come out in a paperback. So I'm glad that I held on to the hardcover. I don't always do that, and I always regret it. Oh, okay. This is John Wood's translation of The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. There is our author right there. This is a gigantic and very stately thing that is my favorite. I've only read 2 English language translations of The Magic Mountain. This is by far my favorite of the 2. And I don't know what to say about the novel, except that it's for adults, it's for grown-ups, and you should read it. You should absolutely read it. It's one of the great novels of the genre. Then this next one, oh, okay, yeah, this next one is from Princeton. This will also be, I think, before we knew each other. Do I have a pub sheet in here? Maybe we just knew each other when this came out. We did. We just knew each other. So this is from 2016, and it caught me totally by surprise. I'm usually up on academic presses. I'm usually up on most of what they're coming out with, and this is a reprint, an annotated reprint. Caught me totally by surprise and delighted me. This is Alexander Pope, An Essay on Man, with the poem and absolute tons of notations, just tons of them. I am a huge fan of Pope. He is almost entirely gone from the popular awareness of poetry. Nobody reads him anymore, but I absolutely love him. So to get a heavily annotated copy of what was one of his most famous poems, wonderful. Okay, this is a book from 100 years ago. Yes. 1940. This is from 1940. This is the Athenaeum Gallery, the Boston Athenaeum, as an early patron of art. Sorry about the wobbly camera. Somebody's jumping on the bed. This is all about the artwork in the Boston Athenaeum. So it will not be the only book on that subject that we have seen. They have these paintings hang. The Boston Athenaeum is a private library here in Boston, and the paintings hang all throughout it. Paintings and sculptures are all throughout the building, on all 5 floors. And we've seen before. I have other books on artwork in the Athenaeum. It's a popular subject because some of it. It's a magnificent little collection for a library. It's a magnificent little collection. Oh. Hi, baby. Hi. Ooh. Well, I did say I was in puppy territory, didn't I? Hi, baby. What you doing? Those beady little eyes bearing into my head. Wee-wee. 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 Can I continue? Huh? Can I continue? You're not paying attention to the library tour at all now. Well, we're almost done with this shelf. This next one is an anthology of P.G. Wodehouse. It's What Ho, and it's got an introduction by Stephen Fry, who played Jeeves in the BBC production, a great BBC series with Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry. And What Ho is Bertie Wooster's favorite thing to say. And I what does this have in it? I of course just love P.G. Wodehouse. This has Jeeves, Blandings, the drones, golf stories, all sorts of stuff. And this is an older, if I remember correctly, this is an older anthology. Let's find out. Yeah, the introduction was done in 2000. Oh, maybe this is all from 2000. I have to love the bookmark, though. It's The Count. The only thing I like better than reading a book is counting the pages. That's my favorite Muppet. One of my favorite Muppets. Impossible to choose. But I love... Oh, baby, what are you doing? Under perpetual assault here. We'll wrap this up because we're bothering the bean. This next one is an Oxford book. We've seen Oxford books of, the Oxford Book of whatever. I've got the Oxford Book of the Sea, the Oxford Book of Ghost Stories, and a bunch of other stuff. I wish I had them all. And this is one of the best ones of them all. This is John Gross. This is the Oxford Book of Essays. A big thing that I go back. Hi, Bean. What you doing? Oh, hello. Oh, hello. How are you doing? I didn't get that kind of energy when I was down here last time. It was my Basset Hound Lucy that interrupted me, and she wasn't able to jump up. But I have a few collections of essays, and this is one of my favorite ones. There are 80 million essay collections. I could easily have 80 million of them, but I don't. Instead, I have just a handful, largely based on how good they are. So I kept this one. Okay, then we have 2 of these very pretty Da Capo trade paperbacks associated with Christopher Hitchens. We have The Quotable Hitchens, which he just loved, of course, because it's him all throughout there, just in choice bits. And then we have The Portable Atheist. These are matching trade paperbacks. They're kind of nice looking. Portable Atheist has some of his favorite quotes and bits from famous atheistic writing, and lots of quotes and bits that were put together by his editors that he didn't know about, or that he had been quoting wrong for 30 years. Really interesting volumes anyway. Really, browser's paradise type volumes. And then the last book, because I'm obviously being summoned elsewhere, the last book here is by Alan Weisman. This is a classic that I've recommended many times before. This is, I think, the trade paperback release. I think I also have the hardcover in this room somewhere. And this is The World Without Us. And on the top you have human civilization. At the bottom you have trees. And the idea of this book is very simple. What would happen to the world if humanity disappeared immediately? All at once. So 9 billion people gone immediately. What would happen to the world on the first day, the first month, the first year? How long would it take? Actually, two questions, contingent one upon the other. Could the world recover from having humans in it, from the damages that humans have done? And if it can recover, how fast can it recover? And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's one of those books like The Ancestor's Tale and a couple of other books that I've mentioned in this tour where you learn something. You have some sort of challenge on every page. Just fantastic stuff. Just fantastically thought-provoking. So, it's probably in a paperback in your bookstore now. I would strongly advise you to get it, no matter who you are. It's one of those books that has universal interest. And there you go. That is the bottom shelf of this bookcase. So next time we will be way up top. We're going back up to the ceiling, where at least we won't be bothered by a certain someone. But anyway, I'll wrap this up, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.